evening, and welcome to another edition of Rebelwatch. I'm your host, Cameron Hassan. Alongside me is sports anchor Jayson Kern and sports reporter Graeme Farrell. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on your Friday night. We have so many things to get into. Obviously, the men's baseball team and the softball team, they had a rough week this past go-round. The Final Four is getting ready to go, but starting things off with the baseball team tonight, they had a rough series against Kentucky at home. They got swept. How are you feeling about that series and that performance?
Yeah, so it's so tough because you have the home series win versus South Carolina, who has been playing some really good baseball this year. Then you go to Tennessee, and it's really hard to win a series, let alone a game at Tennessee. So we took one there, which was big. The other two games weren't pretty, and then it's just it just feels like the life has been sucked out of this team. It just feels like every time you watch it, the bats are dead. The strikeouts are just coming at higher numbers now, and I feel like that Tennessee series took a toll on them. And yeah, I mean, you look at they were up 4-1. Leger, who had a massive two-run home run to make it 4-3. That was the whole momentum came back, and everyone was into it. They took a 5-3 lead, and then in the bottom of the ninth, you have bases loaded with one out. And you have a weak infield pop-up and a strikeout just to end it. It really, a base hit would have tied it, and it just, when you have the heart of your order in that situation, usually that's where you want to see like a big difference. Because the crowd was into it, they were getting crazy, the student section was into it, and just as soon as that happened, then the next two games were just ugly. They were so ugly. So it scratches your head, like why, like what is going on with this team? Is it the pitching? Is it the hitting? Is it something? Is it Bianco? It begs the question.
It does, because like you said, it's just with that Tennessee series, it kind of was a blowout. But you could see it was just like, Tennessee hit well during that series. Pitching was a little bit iffy, but like they played good baseball. Like that game where they won, it was just very well played. And then, you get to this, and it's like now the fundamentals of the game we're not even doing correctly. 9 errors in 2 games, like in this series, is just unacceptable. Like our guys got to be able to make plays. You're playing college baseball in the SEC. It's not acceptable to have these type of games happen and almost get, run ruled twice on your home field. Mind you, got run ruled twice already by Tennessee on the road. Like it's just, you can't have this happen in Bianco. It's been difficult, and after that, Memphis game, that game was hard to watch too, because we were playing good baseball, and then Memphis puts up that 5 spot in the 7th inning, and we didn't do a good job of hitting with runners in scoring position. Went 2 for 13, and that's when that's how you score runs. That's when you have to be the most clutch. And Mike Bianco said after the game it was a team effort, but he's taking it on the chin. The guys are not clutching up. The guys are not wanting to be there, it seems like. He had the team on the field for 20 minutes after the game, the longest so far. And it just seems like this team is lost and they haven't found their identity, and it's not good this far into the season.
Yeah, one of the most confusing things is you said the errors. Yeah, we lead the SEC in errors, which is not a category you want to be in. But Riley Maddox pitched great on Friday. He kept us in the game the entire game. But last weekend, or the weekend prior against Tennessee, Doyle seems like he's our guy with 10 strikeouts in back-to-back weeks, and then doesn't even last 4 innings against Kentucky, and he just looks.
Right.
It's just the inconsistency.
Yeah, there's no consistency, exactly.
Especially like after you lose that game 1, and then you go into game 2 thinking it's like, oh, it's okay. Doyle's
we got
pitching
Doyle.
Today.
We'll
win game 2, whatever. So when he has an off day, then it just throws everything off, and then you're kind of screwed at that point.
Yeah, it's just when it's, and again, and the road ahead is so just not favorable. We in Fayetteville for 3, and then you got to go home against State, and yeah, I mean State seems like, oh, it's a rivalry game. We could never find a way to beat State in a series. So steal 1 versus Arkansas, that'd be big, the number 1 team in the nation. Figure it out in the midweek. Don't lose another midweek. You're back home, in front of your home crowd, and then State in town. That should be like, put your heart into that series, because this is for the state of Mississippi. Like, this is huge. If we can finally get a series win versus State, maybe that'll
re-energize them back up.
I think so.
Yeah, but with this Arkansas series, I do understand the number 1 team in the country.
Right.
They just are stacked. I do believe that they will make it to Omaha, and I believe they have the best shot of winning the national championship. But this is our first SEC West opponent all year. We played 3 straight SEC East opponents. If there was any time ever, kind of make a splash, like, hey, David versus Goliath, now would be the time because it would put us higher up in this SEC West standings. And if we have this momentum, somehow just, squeak out a series win against Arkansas in Fayetteville, what could that do for this team, especially going into the state series? It could rally them. It seems like that's what we need, especially what Mike Bianco needs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely don't know what to expect from them, but that would definitely be huge. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Ole Miss softball team.
It's that time of the year again, fellas. When the mornings are hot, the afternoons are hotter, and football is on its way back. Now, games is won by the battles fought in August. Everyone that's not revered as an Ole Miss legend has been in your shoes before, trying to survive that Mississippi heat, competing for a spot, and knowing the sacrifice that it takes to make it in this league. You go into this money collection of men from 100 different places, and if you work, you emerge from it as one team with one goal and one heartbeat. The SEC awaits you. And if they don't know who you are now, they will soon.
The dynamic freshman is starting to make his impact. Dagger with the shot clock down to 1. That 3-ball drops for Jamin Brakefield. Fagan from the corner with a triple. Farrell for 3, and that's a big response. 3-ball, yes. Miss shooting lights out of the pavilion. And give him one more. Wow. Alley-oop. No, you can't teach that. Well, that should give Ole Miss a boost.
Ole Miss 18th NCAA tournament appearance.
This is fun, folks, as Baker's peeling it. Little heat check. Snow Collins for 3. Rita!
Said, I love Madison Scott.
Ole Miss Rebels are having a lot of fun, and you can see why.
Welcome back to Rebelwatch. Well, we're now going to be talking about the softball team. They played at home this past weekend and were also swept by South Carolina. There was a close game, but mostly it was just kind of a team that seemed to not be able to figure things out.
Yeah, and it seems like, you get swept back-to-back series at home, and then you have this UT Martin game where you lose the first game. You lose 7 games in a row. I don't know what it is with this team or like what happened with the magic that happened in Baton Rouge, but it just seems like they're also lost their identity, equivalent to the baseball team. Right now they just need to hunker down. It just seems like also they're messing up with the fundamentals. They're making the errors, it seems like, and they're also leaving people on base. But their big factor has been their pitching. Their pitching has it's been a little bit sketchy because in the beginning of the year, it is really what led them, to start off the year doing well. And we need this team to, make a postseason appearance in the NCAA tournament because this is the second year for their head coach. And they made it last year. It's going to be a stain, when it comes to not making it the second year. And so we're going to have to see how they do. But they did win the game against UT Martin in the second game. It was a good win, 4-2. You know, going into this, they got Alabama coming up. They're the number 14 ranked team in the country. But that's the thing with this softball team. They're 4-11 at home this year. Maybe the construction does a little bit of a funk to them, while they're 10-3 on the road. So this could be, you know,
they could maybe sweep Alabama at home.
Hey,
you
and
just don't know.
You never know. Sweep Bama, sweep Arkansas in both sports. That would be amazing.
We'll be back. And, you know, you just look at the schedule and just how unfortunate it's been. Just all the ranked opponents in a row, and then the UT Martin was supposed to be one game, and they throw it into a doubleheader, kind of blindsided the softball team. So there's just a bunch of games coming to them in a row. And yeah, I mean, you drive by that softball field, and it's like, what is that, a softball field? Like, what is going on there?
It's hard for the fans to really see the field because there's a big gate over them.
They're only in the outfield. They came into the jumbotron. It just
doesn't even feel like a home field advantage.
No,
definitely
it
not.
really
it's almost a disadvantage.
It makes you think like, oh man, like all these big time SEC schools are coming. It's like, oh man, we're playing at a construction site. It's a little,
right?
It's a
right.
little like,
yeah. Also, what does that do for
kind of-
recruits?
it hurts.
Like I guess when it's all said and done, like the new facility is
sure
going to
it's
be
gonna look cool. It's
amazing.
gonna
But
look great.
for the time being, it's just kind of like, especially like visitors. Like there's especially in softball, I've noticed that so many visiting fans will come to the games, and it's just kind of embarrassing
there are
right
a
now.
lot that do come.
Yes,
but
a lot of
Yeah, but,
parents
like,
and friends and whatnot, but
if the visiting fans had half a brain, they'd see that there's something new coming. I feel like they
well,
wouldn't just be
it's
this
like
is
we
their home
know,
field.
but like when you're sitting it, when you're in it, and you're experiencing it, you're not loving it in the
No,
moment. You
no.
know, like you're wanting it to fast forward.
Yeah, it's just a ugly scene. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't
Yeah.
make it enjoyable
It's
to
harder
watch the
to
game.
get,
It's like
you
foul ball
know,
off the beam.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
harder to get like students to come, you know, because there's just not much draw there.
No, the tickets are limited. I mean,
Right.
It stinks for like home games with big time opponents, and
Right, because it's hard to, you know, even like get the crowd involved.
I can't even wake up on a Sunday and be like, oh, I want to go to the game. It's like, oh wait, I had to get the ticket in advance. So it's kind of
Right.
it's kind of
Right.
just a tough situation to be in overall. But again, like you said, this is a very big weekend coming up. 10-3 on the road, make a statement. These are two huge series for both baseball and softball. So if the series in LC wasn't a fluke, go to Bama and do it there. Bama's always been historically pretty good softball program. So I think this would, you can just win the series. You don't have to sweep. Just win the series or just get a game. No, I'd rather
win the
rather win the
series.
series.
We need
You gotta
to
spark,
win the series.
something's got to spark. And you had a couple, like a bunch. You've had 3 of the 4 home series in SEC, or be home, I should say. And now you're gonna go on the road for a few games, and let's see if our theory's right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it should be interesting to see how this weekend pans out for the Lady Rebs, but we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Final Four and who we think is going to come out with the win.
My passion is journalism. Here at the University of Mississippi, we produce a nightly half-hour newscast, broadcasting regionally on cable and globally on the World Wide Web. It's the kind of experience that is preparing me to walk into any news station in the country with the skills and abilities I need to succeed. So it's not just preparing me for the real world, it is the real world.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
We are rebels. For more than 160 years, we've been accomplishing the impossible, from conducting the world's first lung transplant to helping prove Einstein was right. from preserving the past to saving the future. We are Mississippi's flagship university, a place where passion and learning unite, where friends become family, where small-town charm meets world-class innovation. We are the University of Mississippi. We are Ole Miss.
Welcome back to Rebel Watch. Well, obviously the Final Four is set for both the men's and the women's side. Some interesting action that went on in the Elite Eight. Obviously, there's two schools that are both in the Final Four bracket for both the men's and women's side, which is interesting to see. But what do we think about the women's Elite Eight in those games?
Honestly, I've been tuned in to some women's college basketball all year.
Mm-hmm.
That was the highest level of women's college basketball I've ever seen. The game with just Iowa versus LSU was incredible. Caitlin Clark is an absolute beast, greatest women's shooter, I believe, so far. Angel Reese, got to give her credit. She had a hard-fought game, and it was incredible. She played really well. She had 20 and 16, I believe, or 16 and 16. She played amazing. Also, it was, with the UConn and USC game, Juju Wallace was amazing. And Paige Beckers, they're just great athletes putting on. And actually, it's funny, to talk about it. LeBron James was actually even saying that there's more iconic people in the women's side of the bracket than there are men's. And he's got a point. That LSU women's game versus Iowa averaged 12 million viewers, more than any MLB baseball game last year. It would have been the second, NBA basketball game. And so it's just awesome for the women's. The Elite Eight was great basketball. It was great for the sport. I think they did an amazing job.
Yeah, and everyone knew the storyline going into that game was injuries versus Caitlin Clark. I got a ring on my finger and you don't from last year. So it was definitely a little bit of Caitlin Clark wanting her revenge, and she got it. She was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. And what scares me for her is that she played so well. And when you keep on playing in this tournament, you have to face UConn next. And UConn is not just a Caitlin Clark, but she's got Paige Beckers along with a bunch of surrounding cast. That's why I'm scared for Iowa in this next game. It's Caitlin Clark's got to be on, or I think UConn's finding their spot in the championship. And I cannot wait for that matchup. And I expect that matchup to be even more viewers because it's just with South Carolina and how dominant they've been. NC State, who you predicted.
Those are my girls.
Genius over there. I think that would be less viewers than, because I feel like everyone's like, oh, South Carolina, they'll just bulldoze over NC State. Prove me wrong. But I just feel like Caitlin Clark and UConn is expected to be there. UConn is always in the top of women's basketball, and same on the men's side, UConn and UConn. They've done it before, and they could do it again. But I cannot wait for this Iowa versus UConn matchup. It's just going to be. I had UConn going to the finals earlier, and I'm going to stick with that. But again, I would not be surprised if Caitlin Clark can find a way to win this game.
Well, I'll just tell you with NC State, they play great basketball. They know how to facilitate to each other, but they are going against, Goliath. This is South Carolina. This team has they've basically been the UConn of the women's side. They've just been blowing teams out. They are undefeated this season, haven't taken one loss. I don't believe there's been another season like that. Maybe I think there's been one, and it's been incredible what they can do. My thing is, that makes the pressure even more. They might have not won the national championship last year. They had LSU, win it. But the pressure can build. You can see what happened to Kentucky when they had Anthony Davis. Sometimes the pressure got to him. John Calipari just didn't coach well. And that's my thing with NC State. I think they're going to be able to go on a run here. But in the end, South Carolina will prevail. But it's going to be a closer game than people expect. Not many people have been talking about NC State a lot this year besides myself. But
clearly we need to be paying attention to them more.
They are a great basketball team. And just going on both sides, for NC State and both the men's and women's, they've been, I'd say they looked at not even as like a little brother or sister. They're looked at as the redheaded stepchild when it comes to Duke and North Carolina in their state in basketball. So I'm just like, I'm happy for that university. Good for them. Like, good for the underdogs. It's awesome. I love that.
And another interesting storyline in that game is South Carolina's undefeated, but they also have a brand new starting five this year. They've had a brand new starting five compared to last year. This entire year, all 5 girls are new. And at one point, you're like, do you think like one of these games the chemistry is gonna just collapse? And they always find a way to just look insanely dominant. That's just hats off to Dawn Staley. She's incredible. But again, they are 5 players that have only been playing with each other for this season. So again, I wouldn't be shocked if NC State could pull it off because there's more experience in their starting 5 compared to the new 5. Yeah, South Carolina is an overall better performing team, but again, when it comes to these Final Four and championship games, you got to have a little bit of chemistry. So it'll be very, very curious to see what happens.
Yeah, it was interesting also to hear like the commentators say that like they were talking about how Gina Arioma had said that the Elite 8 matchups were actually the hardest matchups for them because, you know, it's the like you're going to the Final Four if you win.
Right.
So when you do get to the Final Four, you kind of get the monkey off your back like, hey, we are here. Like even if like you don't want to lose, but even if we do, we still made the Final Four. It's still a success of the season.
Right.
But like so, I do think that especially in the like Iowa and UConn game, those girls are gonna. I don't think they're gonna be as nervous as people think. Like it will be a big time stage, like national spotlight. I think it's gonna be great basketball, and they're gonna deliver. Oh, I just hope South Carolina doesn't win, but I do believe they will. I love my girls from NC State. Here we go.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I really want to see an Iowa-South Carolina matchup. I want to see South Carolina versus Caitlin Clark herself, just herself.
Yeah, just to top it off.
Just because I feel like, you know, it'd just be the perfect ending. I mean, even if she loses, I mean, still.
Yeah.
And like UConn had 3 big injuries before the season started, and what they've still done without 3 key players has been incredible. I think my prediction is going to be UConn versus South Carolina, and I just think South Carolina. No one's stopping that train.
Yeah.
I think no one's stopping that train. What about you guys? Who you guys got winning? NC State? My bad.
I want to say
dumb question.
NC State. You know what? I'm going to take NC State. South Carolina season, perfect season. I don't think it happens. NC State, Iowa, NC State national champions.
I'm gonna make an edit of like that clip and then like them losing by 40. And
no.
That or he's gonna be like the only person that picked NC State. And he's gonna go viral for picking them.
It's April 4th.
April 4th.
So when the game happens, we'll know.
Yeah.
Okay. They already knew.
That's so funny.
Gosh, I mean, I think South Carolina will end up winning, but I just don't want to see them win. You know, it's like Alabama and Georgia in football. You know, I just want to see a new champ.
But what I like about them is they keep to themselves. They're quiet. They're not chirping and screaming.
That's so true. They're not
like
you know,
Angel Reese is in their face. Caitlin Clark is screaming. Like they're just very humble group. So it's like
we don't really know them as individuals.
You don't want them to win, but it's like damn, like these guys are always winning.
Yeah,
like, I know
they're just quiet. They do the job and they go home. They don't say
culture.
nothing.
Yeah, that's Dawn Staley.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So moving on to the men's side, you know, not too many shocks there, except NC State did pull off a big upset again.
Yeah.
But what are we thinking about that side exactly?
That was crazy. Just, you know, my heart breaks for Houston to hear like she was their best player all year, like their heart and soul of the team. And, you know, to have that game, it was just unfortunate for him. With the Purdue game with Gonzaga, that was great. They did a great job. Purdue, Zach Edey, and then going up, just, you know, he is so good. But my thing is, he gets so many calls. He's also in the paint for more than 10 seconds. It's just difficult. He had 41 free throw attempts. I just don't understand how that happens in a college basketball game. It's going to be interesting to see how Purdue does. What do you think? How do you think about this?
Yeah, so it's been, and again, we could sit here and say, oh, UConn's going to run the table because no one's beating them. But Bama has been shocking every single team they've been facing. I feel like they were favored against Clemson, but I feel like in every game they've been underdogs.
Right.
Or it feels like they should not win this game. Against Grand Canyon, like, yeah, Bama was supposed to win, but you just saw, like, the whole crowd was Grand Canyon.
Right.
And it was like, Grand Canyon's going to get the upset, and they didn't. And then Clemson, they looked great the entire game. It's just so impressive what Nate Oates has been doing, and it's like a team that you were watching Bama throughout the whole regular season. It's like, oh, they're good, Like Auburn's probably going to win the SEC, but
Yeah.
like they're going to be the best team out of the SEC. You know what I mean?
I'm very surprised by it, especially, just Bama's not known for their defense, but that offense, Sears, obviously the leading scorer in the SEC this year, he's just done an amazing job. But UConn, that 30-0 run against Illinois, it's just straight dominance. Straight dominance. Their players are so well connected. Dan Hurley has them playing they've been even comparing them to NBA teams, which I find crazy, but to even have that comparison is just, a shout out to him. But NC State, Zach Edey, TJ Burns, and that's going to be insane. It's going to be like the Great Wall of Edey and the TJ Burns Mountain of Everest. It's going to be insane. I'm excited for that game to see them in the post. But the thing about NC State that I said earlier was that DJ Burns is a great passer and facilitator. That's why they were able to beat Duke. They were able to beat them on the perimeter. Also, Duke did not have a great shooting night. So I'm excited for that. We're going to see what happens. I'm going to go Purdue, and I want to see an SEC team in there, but UConn's just too good.
Yeah, I think Purdue's very beatable, and I feel like, again, like I said for Bama, every single game, they've been like +7, +10, and they haven't lost a game since the start of the ACC tournament, and it's been absolutely incredible. And DJ Burns, man, it's just not because of his size, it's just he's so shifty. And it's like, how is a guy of that size so fast? How is he so fast? And you bring up this whole him versus Zach Edey point. Like Zach Edey, I wouldn't say he's a free throw merchant, but I would say he's more of a how do you defend him? Like, how are you actually going to defend a 7'5" guy with that? Because usually you see a 7'5" guy like sharp, and he's skin and bones. Zach Edey's got some girth under him. So I feel like, how do you actually defend him without like being up in his grill? Because you watch them defend it, they're boxing out, but you have to like actually get like in front. It's real. Just watching, I always try and watch. I'm like, how do you actually not foul this guy? But you can't. You could sit here and be like, oh, he's an insane free. He's a pretty average free throw shooter. So it's not like he's making every single shot he's getting. But again, like I'm curious to see if DJ Burns is even going to guard Zach Edey. Like, is Diarra going to guard Zach Edey?
Yeah, most likely.
Like, because I feel like Zach Edey is one of those guys you're not going to put your biggest man on. You want to put your most athletic man on him, and a guy knows to actually play defense. That's why I cannot wait to see that. But again, you're not stopping this train. I really, we sit here and say how they are underdogs every game. They've been proving everyone wrong, and I just think they're going to prove everyone wrong again. Because, again, Purdue lost to Wisconsin in the Big East or the Big Ten tournament, and Wisconsin is not a great team. No. They're really not a great team. So when you see that they're very beatable, and you actually have a team that's red hot like the Wolfpack, I think it's going to be UConn versus NC State in the championship, and yeah, UConn's going to win.
I like it. What do you think, Cameron?
I think UConn will end up pulling it off. Purdue and NC State, it could go either way for me. That side of the four kind of doesn't bore me, but it's just not as.
This has been a very boring Final Four. Like, you look a couple years ago, Duke, UNC, Kansas. Like, damn, no one knows who's going to win this game.
Right.
Now it's like, all right, I think the clear-cut favorite's going to be UConn. But again, it's March. There are upsets happening all the time.
Yeah, you obviously never know. But also another thing I wanted to bring up with you guys was obviously some players, the WNBA draft, players had to declare. How do you feel about some of these players like Angel Reese and whatnot declaring when they have another year of eligibility and could be making huge NIL money?
She made a good point that she believes that she's done everything. She's won a national championship. She's been SEC Player of the Year. She's been an All-American. I do think it's the best move for her. She's given a lot to that university, and the university gave back to her. But it's just going to be interesting because I didn't know this until earlier today that the WNBA, like the national championship, the draft is only 10 days away from it. And so, they got to get up and ready. So she's not going to have much time in this offseason, to really do anything. So, I think it's also a good thing for her, stay on course, you just got done with your season, now you're going to have this draft, and you're going to get right into training camp for it. So I think it's a good move for her, stay on track, and don't let outside distractions, affect your basketball game. You're going to be getting a lot of money coming on, just a lot of deals. Just remember what you're there for. It's the game of basketball.
You have a name
That's
for
what
yourself.
you fell in love with.
Yeah.
So just keep your head on, keep your crown, you know, you're good. Don't let it fall.
I am curious to see, like, you still have Juju Watkins next year, but, like, with no Clark and no Angel Reese.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, like, how the college basketball world for women changes.
Who the next star becomes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's going to be someone.
And they've been finding someone every
Yeah.
single time. And I want to bring up a point that you said before the show about how Caitlin Clark wouldn't be who she is. What was that?
Oh, yeah. So apparently they were saying that if Paige Beckers never got hurt, Caitlin Clark would not be talked about today. And I find that
That's
a
crazy.
crazy statement.
That's just hilarious. The leading scorer for NCAA Division I women's basketball, and she's now the leading scorer in the NCAA tournament for women. It's like, this girl is an animal. She's amazing. I can't wait to see her at the next level where she goes against the other best.
She's gonna be playing with Aaliyah Boston next year in Indiana.
I
That's gonna be a lot of fun to see them
I'm
play.
excited. I want to see her against Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and Sabrina
That's
Ionescu.
great. Yeah,
I think that's in the works. So that's going to be just awesome for both sides of basketball. It's just good for the game.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Should be so interesting to see how the tournament winds up and where Clark and Reese end up going, or how they end up furthering their careers. But that's all we have for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to tune in next week and follow us at Rebel_Watch for the latest sports updates. Thank you and good night.